Welcome to That's Not News. We're here at Vale Park, joined by a Port Vale legend who's made over 500 career appearances. We'll be talking injuries, the England C national team, and the time he beat me at go-karting. Whilst back at the Etihad, me and Dan will be chatting Maurizio Pochettino and the race for the Championship top six. Let's go. So here we are back at the Etihad. Dan, joining me again, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Yesterday we spoke to Adam Yates, which we'll get to, but today I want to talk about Maurizio Pochettino and the race for the Championship top six. We may as well start with Pochettino. Tottenham lost 7-2 to Bayern Munich. What's going wrong?
So much, Jack. So much. There's so much confusion that's surrounding the club right now. So many contracts, key contracts that are expiring in the summer. So many players had their heads turned by bigger moves in the summer. They're so frail defensively. There's a real lack of strong mentality at the back. I don't see a key leader in amongst that back line. I think Hugo Lloris as a captain is an issue. I think the players that they recruited in the summer are good players, and I think they'll turn out to be good players, but I think the likes of Ndombele and Celso aren't ready to step up and really be the guy to bring new life and new energy to this Tottenham team. And I think, although their next run of games is probably favourable, I think Spurs could again be looking at another trophyless season, which is an issue. It's
not just an issue for Spurs, it's an issue for Pochettino, who is probably regarded as one of the best in the world at the moment. How disappointing is he going to be that, despite the miracles, and they are miracles, that he's worked at Tottenham Hotspur, that he just can't get that elusive trophy?
Very much so, and I think in a lot of elements he's got himself to blame, because I think that the fact that they haven't managed to get their hands on a domestic trophy, not just the Premier League but a League Cup or a FA Cup, is poor from him. Because I think above all else, I think that comes down to the squad that you pick. We've seen Spurs so many times in recent years fall to lower, lesser sides than them, and I'm not just talking Premier League sides, but we saw with Colchester on penalties the other week in the League Cup that they can fall to lower tier sides as well. And yeah, I think the lack of trophies is now extremely concerning, not just for Pochettino, but I think for the likes of Kane as well, who now is widely considered by many to be the best number 9 in the world. And if you are that, you need the trophies, not just the goals, but the trophies and the know-how in those situations to prove that you've done it all. And yeah, I think if you're looking at it now, Spurs, the project that they've got going on doesn't seem to be able to wield at anything in terms of silverware this year. And are these players going to stick around for another season on top of this one to try and win that elusive title? I don't think so.
You talk about the FA Cup and the League Cup. The League Cup this season obviously was a disaster. Spurs were knocked out on penalties by Colchester. Last season, the FA Cup was basically a disaster. They won the first game against Tranmere 7-0 and then got knocked out by Crystal Palace. The League Cup last season, they got to the semi-final, lost on penalties to Chelsea. You are right in that they should be aiming for those trophies, but last season there was a bit of a distraction, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you could they finished this season very poorly. Last season, I remember losses to West Ham, to Bournemouth. They drew with Everton at home on the last day. Obviously, they lost to Ajax at home. They lost to Man City at home in the Champions League. And it was only through two
controversial.
Yeah, absolutely. I think out there on that pitch, I was fortunate to be there that day, and that's the craziest game I've ever been to. VAR did Spurs a massive favour, and then obviously you talk of miracles, none bigger than what happened in that night in Amsterdam. And so they were lucky to get to the Champions League final, but I say they were never going to win the Champions League final. As soon as it was Liverpool that they were drawn against, we knew who was the stronger side, and it took them all of 40 seconds to get ahead on that day. And then from that point on, it was game over. And I think that in itself, the fact that even in a Champions League final, just one goal down with the whole game to play, we knew it was game over. Everyone did. We knew that Spurs weren't going to get back into that game. And it was Liverpool's for the taking. And they went away, had a summer, they had a good pre-season, They actually, funnily enough, beat Bayern Munich in the final of, I think it was the Audi Cup in pre-season. They beat Real Madrid as well. Not a massive feat, I will say, at this moment in time, to beat Real Madrid. I think
I must mention Dan is quite a big Real Madrid fan.
Yeah, I do follow, and we're not going to talk about that right now because that's a whole nother conversation. But Spurs beat them, not a great achievement, but still beat Real Madrid, and I think that's a testament to the job that they've done. They had a good pre-season, signed some good players who were coming through and could turn to be fruitful. But as I said, I mentioned this is a problem. The Spurs side that they fielded against Bayern Munich, if you take Aurier out of that team, that's a Spurs side that has been there for so long. The players, it's the same faces, and I kind of liken it to Real Madrid actually, whereby that lack of freshness and the lack of faces in the squad who are new and ready right now to take that team to the next level, that's what they're lacking. And I think no matter how good you are, no matter what the team is, you constantly need to be mixing up, injecting fresh faces into that team. Spurs haven't done that. We all criticised them last summer for not signing a player. They've gone away and signed some, but actually somehow have managed to make the squad worse. Don't ask me how that works. And so much confusion right now.
Another significant player that just hasn't turned up this season is Dele Alli. He as a youngster, he's still young, but he's not a prospect anymore. But when he was a youngster, he was a real prospect. What, in your opinion or your beliefs, what's happened to Dele for that to have happened?
I think the problem is with Dele Alli, I'm not too sure on the positions that he's taken up. I was watching him against Bayern Munich, and sometimes it seemed like, so the formation will tell you that Ali was playing behind Son and Kane, who were in the front two. In game, you could kind of see that rotating, and Ali was kind of stepping into that front line, as he has done for Spurs on a lot of occasions. He's played kind of at the front with Kane as a kind of second striker. I didn't like the positions. His head just doesn't seem to be in the game, and the problem is for likes of Kane, you see a move to Real Madrid somewhere of that nature. Eriksen obviously was linked with Real Madrid and came very close to making that move in the summer. You see high ceilings for this club where there is a next step, but is a Real Madrid going to take a gamble on Dele Alli? Is a Barcelona going to take a gamble on Dele Alli? No, Spurs right now is as good as Dele Alli is going to get, but it's probably actually better than Dele Alli deserves right now than to be at a club like Spurs. You can say that playing of that level is probably beyond him at the moment. That's what worries me for Dele Alli, is that he could be the one that bears the brunt of this and doesn't actually benefit from being at a club like Spurs, because his performance is such right now that I don't think a club will want to gamble on him.
And you talk about we talked about the 7-2 Bayern Munich result. What you watched it?
Yep.
What went wrong?
Serge Aurier, I'm going to scapegoat. Sorry, Serge.
I'm sure he's watching.
Yeah, but you were terrible. If I address him in person. Kieran Trippier, the World Cup catfish, as he's commonly known, whereby amazing at the World Cup, had an incredible tournament with England. You expect him to come back to what was Wembley at the time, that became the new stadium, and demonstrate to the Premier League the new Kieran Trippier, and he didn't. He did the opposite. He regressed. He was terrible defensively. He left for Atletico, probably the best place for him to go in the world to sort that out.
Let me just tell you, that was the strangest transfer.
Yeah, it really was, and for Trips, I think he has now got a manager whereby he's had a good start in La Liga because he's had Simeone to iron out those defensive issues. I mean, if you're a player that's struggling defensively and you think, right, which manager in world football is going to help me out? There's one place you go, and Simeone's done that. But Aurier's come in and he's been awful, absolutely awful. Every game you watch, you either feel like he's going to get sent off or give away 3 goals. And you know what? I don't know which one's better right now. I think having him off the pitch might actually be the better solution. He was terrible against Bayern Munich. The whole defence was, they completely capitulated. There's no confidence in each other. Hugo Lloris is, and I've been saying this for a long time, a goalkeeper that they need to get rid of. A terrible goalkeeper to have on the top stage. Such a weak mentality. I think as a captain as well, that's poor. I don't see him as a leader. And every time Bayern Munich came forward, it was just a training drill. And don't get me wrong, the finishes were good. They scored good goals, but the resolve that Tottenham shows, the grit, especially after taking the lead, really, really disappointing.
We'll move focus to the manager, Pochettino, who's been at Tottenham now for quite a while. His record shows quite well. 286 games, 158 wins, 71 losses, and 57 draws. He's not a massive draw fan. He's used 66 players in that time, which is, in 286 games, is
very respectable.
Is respectable. For him to have done that well, it is quite miraculous, considering he's not really got a massive transfer outlay. He's got a lot of old academy players. He uses Harry Winks now. Harry Kane's come through the ranks. But nobody ever saw Tottenham as a team that were ever going to challenge for the title probably 5 years ago.
No, absolutely. I mean, if the day that... look at the managers that they had before. Pochettino, Sherwood.
Big fan of Sherwood, aren't you?
Timmy Time did bits for the Villa. Tim Sherwood and the like, AVB, those kind of managers. Spurs have such an upgrade in Pochettino. Imagine the day that he took charge, he said, right, before the turn of 2020, he'd have Spurs in the Champions League final, playing in the best stadium in the world, potentially, having the best number 9 in the world, potentially. All these, you'd have sounded crazy. But such is the job that he's done. He's put them on that top tier where they can go toe-to-toe with these big clubs and get a result. I can think of them beating Real Madrid, beating Juventus, am I right in saying as well, during Pochettino's tenure. He's really put them up there with the elite. But the problem is that, again, so many windows have closed now for Pochettino, whereby there aren't many clubs in the world that he can go to now. If he sees himself moving away, I think the door at Juventus has closed. PSG looks set on Tuchel. He can't go to Barcelona because of his ties with Espanyol in the past, and that he's obviously been very outspoken of Barcelona in the past, which I think prevents him from getting that job. I just don't think he'd be accepted in Catalonia. There's only one job in the world where he can go, and it's Real Madrid. But the problem is if you're Real Madrid and you're Florentino Perez, how much is the payout package going to be from Mauricio Pochettino, or you get Jose Mourinho for free?
Another job that could become available is Man United.
But the problem is with the Man United job, Jack, is that I think that's a downward step.
Wow.
I would go as far as saying that. I think for a manager like Pochettino, having to go into another club where he has to build from the bottom all over again, has to go through season after season without a trophy, has to rebuild a squad, not just a squad but a club, a whole mentality. I don't think that appeals to him right now. I think he wants to step into a club where he can finally put his foot on the accelerator without breaking the table, and really push for titles with a squad that is already there. I think Spurs, although they're in complete disarray, are in a better position than Manchester United right now.
I disagree. So I think Pochettino is a big fan of this rebuilding process. And imagine what an attractive prospect it is to go to one of the biggest clubs in the world, at Manchester United, be able to really put your own stamp on it, be given a couple of seasons to bring players in, get players out, and just kind of rebuild morale in that squad, which is low. And then to be able to take them to the Champions League finals like he has with Tottenham, to be able to challenge for Premier Leagues. He's going to get a lot more financial backing in a place like Manchester United. It's a bigger club. Mm-hmm. It's a club steeped with history. I think that Manchester United is a really attractive prospect for Mauricio Pochettino should Ole leave. I think the board at United should give Ole more time, but I think Pochettino would consider it if it came his way. I don't think it's a downward step. If anything, it might be a sideways step.
Yeah, I think definitely at least sideways. But again, Pochettino is a manager that desperately needs to win a title. This is how I see it. I think so much that is automatically for Arsenal fans and those that don't like Tottenham, the go-to whenever you can instantly put it down is he has never won a title on the elite level. That's what I think he needs. I can't see him winning at Spurs. As you said, I think United he'd have a couple of seasons. And the pure frustration you saw in him on the touchline in that Bayern game, he was seething right now. But I suppose even the Real Madrid job is a bit of a rebuild at the moment. There's no guarantee that they're going to win titles anytime soon. So I think Poch is going to have to wait it out. But boy, I hope something good comes around because I love him as a manager. I really do. I think he's been really fresh. I think he's a new face on the elite scene, which you don't see very often. I mean, there's a big kind of merry-go-round at the top level. whereby it's the same old faces. And Poch has come onto that. He's burst onto the scene. We have the 3 best managers in the world operating in the Premier League right now for the 3 best teams. I think it's fair to say. You disagree?
I wouldn't say I disagree. I just think we can call them the 3 best managers in the world right now, but Poch hasn't won anything.
Yep.
And trophies make a manager and a team and a player, essentially. So there is maybe managers out there that would not be very happy, if they were watching, would not be very happy with what you've just said.
No, I think you can certainly make a contest for that. I think Pep has to watch his mantle on that front. Been a long time.
It has.
It needs that Champions League.
That Champions League is eluding him quite a lot.
2011, the last time he won the Champions League. And for a manager like Pep Guardiola, the less I say, the better. If I speak, Jack, if
Poch leaves Tottenham,
yep.
Who comes in? Who replaces Mauricio Pochettino? It's a really big shoes to fill.
Yeah, it is. Is my answer to that one. It's they wouldn't be able to get anyone as good or better, in my opinion. I don't think that's possible.
I don't think they'll attract the calibre of manager that Pochettino is again. It would have to be a rebuilding process.
Yeah, they'd have to go for a manager who was of Poch's stature before he came to Spurs. And there are managers in the Premier League that I think would appeal. But right now, can they go and attract an Allegri, a Mourinho? No. I don't think they would get the financial backing. I think the squad is such whereby if a manager were to step into say hypothetically Spurs were managerless tomorrow, there's so much unrest in the squad and so much uncertainty regarding the future of those players, whereby I don't think a manager would want to come in, because if in the summer they're going to lose Christian Eriksen and Harry Kane, it's a completely different job prospect altogether.
Yeah.
Really. So I think they have to take a gamble on someone lower down the Premier League, or a manager that is doing well abroad, say. And they won't be able to get someone as good as Pochettino. It will take patience, it will take time, and it's more time without a trophy for Tottenham Hotspur.
We'll look at Tottenham's next 5 games. Obviously, we've got Brighton, which is on Sky this weekend. After that, they've got Watford. Mm-hmm. Then Everton, Liverpool and Sheffield United are the other 3. From points there, you've got to expect them to get points against Brighton. Mm-hmm. You've got to expect them to get points against Watford. Yep. And you've got to expect them to get points against Sheffield United. Mm-hmm. Everton and Liverpool, listen, I don't think anyone in the league could beat Liverpool at the moment, not even City.
No.
The Everton game, I think, will be the biggest indicator of where Spurs are at the moment, because Everton are very inconsistent. Is that fair on Spurs to put them almost at the same level as Everton now? Again.
No. I would say they're just as inconsistent. There's just as much uncertainty surrounding the manager. They're both sides who are trying to upgrade their status as a club right now. Everton are trying to break into that top 6. Spurs are trying to break into the top 2, really, because they've been the 3rd best side in the Premier League for a long time now. And they're still so far off where City and Liverpool are at right now. And so, I wouldn't say it's too harsh at all. I think that Everton game is a big one for Spurs, and I think, again, it's going to be live on TV. That will be a really interesting one to watch, because Everton are a side who are inconsistent, who could turn up and beat Spurs in that game, but the same could happen. And I think for both clubs that's going to be a huge measure of exactly where they're at right now. But there's big games coming up. Red Star, their Champions League fortunes need to turn around quickly, because if they go don't get out of that group, which is a genuine concern right now.
Yeah.
Coming out 3rd in a group of Red Star, who I should actually pronounce as Crvena Zvezda. I learned the other day that's now the official name of Red Star Belgrade. And Olympiacos, if they finish 3rd in that group, then I don't even need to say how much of a disaster that is. They have to turn their Champions League round fortunes quickly, because that game against Red Star is the last game in the first round of fixtures. That's 3 already done. They've taken 1 point so far, and it was a complete capitulation in Greece for the Olympiacos game as well. They took the lead, went 2 goals up actually, before surrendering a 2-goal lead. So huge concerns, and they really need to start turning around their fortunes now and start showing some resolve, because even when they take the lead in games now and they start positively, as they did against Bayern Munich. Son scored a good goal, it was a great finish. You know, it looked at that point like Spurs might have been able to get another and really progress in the game. And so even if they do go and take the lead, I don't think teams will be particularly put off.
As an Aston Villa fan, are you scared of Tottenham?
No, not at all. I was. We went there on the first day of the season, and we took the lead. But for some poor managerial decisions and, funnily enough, a lack of defensive solidarity, we threw it away. But we're just the one of many teams that have shown that if you take it to Spurs this season, Olympiacos have done it, Colchester have done it, Southampton at the weekend. I know they didn't win, but they showed what happens if you press Hugo Lloris. Leicester have beaten them this season as well, I believe. So many teams will look at Spurs and think, yeah, you know what, I think we can go and beat this. I think that it's like 1 win in their last 8 now or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't see why any team in the league would be scared of Spurs right now.
I don't even think as a Stoke fan I'm scared of Spurs, and as a Stoke fan I'm scared
saying
of everyone. Talking of Stoke-on-Trent, yesterday we spoke to ex-Port Vale footballer, among other teams, as he mentions. We spoke to Adam Yates. Yep. How did you enjoy that experience?
Loved it. A brilliant interview. I just want to say thank you for Adam. He was absolutely brilliant. Hit some real emotional notes, some really humorous notes. Listen to it all, guys. You'll really enjoy it. He's such a warm and welcoming figure. I think it was so easy to talk to him.
Well, let's take a look at a part of the interview now. We are joined by Adam Yates, formerly of Port Vale, Morecambe, Northampton, Leek, Crewe.
Burton.
Where?
Burton.
And Burton. Obviously not done my research well enough. Adam, before we get into it, I just want to talk about, obviously you played for Port Vale, this is Vale Park.
Yeah.
How much did it mean to you as a youngster from Stoke-on-Trent to be able to play for Port Vale?
I think initially growing up as a player or a young lad, you want to become a footballer and play for any professional team. But playing for a local side, it meant so much more. You know, being part of the city, and part of the community, and part of all the fans. You know, going down the corner shop on a Sunday morning when you've lost 3-0, and 85-year-old Fred starts getting on your case because you've given the ball away. It brings it all home, and it makes you feel like you realise just what it means to the local people. And to be honest, I had numerous opportunities to leave the football club, and I didn't because I wanted to be here.
And it is a club that is a real pillar of the community, especially now new owners have come in, and you are trying to drive the club really in the community's face and get involved.
Well, it's got to be at this level. Football clubs want as many fans through the door as possible, but certainly at this football club, and the type of people the owners are, they're very community based. They give a lot back to the community, whether that's through schools, community groups, churches, whatever it may be. They look after the staff, but they want to make this a family orientated club, and I think that feel is coming back to the football club. It's certainly important, and it's sort of produced a feel good factor around even the staff within the stadium.
So you've mentioned family there. We're going to take it right back to the beginning, if that's okay.
I can't remember about that part.
We're going to talk about you growing up, coming through Crewe. You actually went through that process with your brother Ryan. I believe he was actually in the academy as well. What was that like for the family? Any competition?
Well, I may as well bring this up now. Ryan edited the Wikipedia page, my Wikipedia page, and said that Ryan was a more talented brother. Quickly, Wikipedia realised this wasn't true. And it has got to be factual on Wikipedia, so they edited. No, so I've got 2 younger brothers. Ryan, 3 years younger than me, who was at Crewe as well. Started Milton Lads and Dads. Got spotted, went to Stoke, was there for a little bit, ended up getting spotted and played to go to Crewe. Went to there and enjoyed that more. Sort of 8 years old, went right the way through, signed a professional contract at 17, stayed till I was 21. Ryan was there and got released a little bit, probably 12 or 13 years old. But I was always the one that if we were going to become a professional footballer, it was going to be me. Physically, I was just better than Ryan. Ryan had a lot of talent, but it was never.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for him to watch this video, and he's going to be straight on the phone.
He will. But Ryan, what I did have some talent. He thinks he had more than he actually had. But that's the way football's gone. Football is. if you look at the big clubs nowadays, they will take youngsters that are physically very, very good compared to a good footballer because they can coach the football into them. They can't bring that physicality and that athleticism in. So, I don't particularly agree with it, but that's the way that a lot of big clubs are going. Yeah. So I ended up, I was there for 4 years, professional at Crewe.
You never got to make a first team appearance for Crewe?
I played in some of the cup games, never actual league game. I was the guy that took me all the way through was Steve Holland, who's now assistant for England.
Yeah.
An unbelievable coach, such a lovely bloke. Never really a manager, but a fantastic coach and as good as I've ever seen. I have to say that he's a very talented man, and he can spot players, and he can produce players, and quite rightly he's part of the England setup.
So from Crewe you went to, was it Leek?
Yeah, so with Crewe in the Championship, sort of got released, never had an agent, didn't know what to do. Came back down to earth with the bump. I'd gone from being in the Championship and training with the first team, being on the bench quite a number of times, to being without a club and nowhere to turn. Ended up signing at Leek Town, and I have to say, in the 2 years I was there, I probably learnt as much as in non-league as I did right through Crewe, because physically it's so demanding non-league. The lower you go.
This is one of the questions I was going to ask, is that obviously for now we're seeing a lot of players come through at these top clubs who don't necessarily get the opportunities. No. As someone who has taken the step down, not just one tier but several, to go and play for Leek Town, is that something you'd recommend and you say would help young players?
I just think that football's changed. I think that the lads that come in from the big clubs now, with the younger lads, 21, 22, 23, they're not hardened to football. They've got no resilience. They've got no mental strength. You will see a lot of players coming from the top clubs that don't make it to the top level, dropping down to the lower leagues and not succeeding because can't physically cope, or they're not mentally strong enough. You've got young lads leaving school and coming to football now where you can't shout at them, you can't swear at them, you can't, they're not made men. So they go into men's football and they're not men. They get intimidated. For me, I think that at 16, 17, 18, you play your youth football and you should be going out to a non-league club from a professional football club, because I just think it hardens you up. And they need to be like that. And what you'll find is 23's football, as pretty as it would be, it's not real football. And unless those players that are doing well at 23 make it in the top clubs, they very rarely will go down the leagues and make a good long career. They might pick up 3 and 4 years somewhere, but they certainly won't go for 15 years of a football career.
I do want to talk about under 23s for a minute. Stoke under 23s came to Vale Park, and Vale League 2 side absolutely played them off the park. I was here. Does that show the real gulf in class in these players that are believed to be at the top of the game and in the good academies against the League 2 side?
I just think it's men's football, so those players, no matter how gifted they are, and I've played with some very gifted players that's never played a league football game. You look at some of the non-league players, they've got fantastic ability, but physically or mentally or professionally they just haven't got what it takes. A couple of years before the game that you're on about, one of the staff at Stoke had spoke about, the 23s a big majority of League 2 sides and quite a lot of League 1 sides, and as a League 1 and League 2 player, we know that's absolute rubbish. It's not. It doesn't show any respect to what the level is, and I think it probably proved that we were right to go out and drill them that night. They're miles off it. The 23s are miles off it, and that's the truth. It's not men's football, and I would like to see the statistics of under 23 players at 22, 23 that go on and make 15-year careers outside that, because I bet it's very, very low.
It must be. When you were at Leek, you got a trial here.
Yeah.
Martin Foyle was the manager at the time.
Yeah.
I assume he'd spotted you.
Yeah. So there'd been a conversation between Leek and Paul Vale. I came, but Leek wanted a little bit of money, and Paul Vale weren't prepared to pay it. Luckily for me, I would have loved to have signed to the football club. Luckily for me, I played a pre-season game, and Mark Cartwright was then acting as an agent. We played Morecambe, and Sam McElroy was there, and sort of wanted me up there straight away to sign. So they agreed to deal with Leek, and went straight up there.
So I believe it was at Morecambe. This is something which, when we kind of researched you, I was very interested about. You actually played for the England C team. That's a process not many people know much about, so I'd be quite interested to hear if you can enlighten us on that, how that process, how it all came about.
To be honest, I'd gone from being at Leek, which no disrespect to Leek in the league, but there was some terrible grounds in that league. And within sort of 3 months of me playing a game for Leek, I was playing across for England seaside, and played at Wembley through that year. So it wasn't a jump because ability-wise, I was comfortable. It was just I was back into full-time football, so I went up to Morecambe. There was a bit of interest initially straight away from Preston. Discussed a bit of a fee with Morecambe, never got taken on. Ended up going and playing for the non-league side. So it's basically the best players from non-league are picked for an England seaside. We had, I think, sort of in that squad of 18, there was probably 11 that played in the Premier League at some point in their career after they played for England. So you can see the talent and the ability that some of the lads have got. George Boyd, Michael Smith, they were all in there. Michael Morrison. There was a lot of good players in there. And you were treated like the England national side would. You stayed at the best hotels. They flew you about the country to play in the games. You got the England caps, you got the shirt, so it was good. But I felt like, even though I was playing for the England non-league side, I still wanted to get back to the Football League.
And then, obviously, you talk about playing at Wembley. With Morecambe, you played at Wembley in a playoff final. I was there.
Yeah, I remember that. You were a top then, Jack.
Yeah, I was literally about this big. As a day, that must be one of the best of your career.
Well, I just think that it was the new Wembley, so there'd been a few games on there. The FA Cup final was the day before. They were mown out the pitch. We got on the pitch. It was fantastic, and emotionally it's so draining. So football for 90 minutes, dependent on how hard you work, but at a professional level, you generally you're shattered at 90 minutes. But emotionally, that took a lot more out of us as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I would have swapped going up the way we did. So we went through the playoffs and we went 1-0 down, got it back to 1-1, and then the lads goes up, we're defending for 45 minutes, second half, like clearance, our lad goes up the other end, puts in the top corner. No time for them to come back. It was just unbelievable. I didn't particularly get the chance to celebrate because the next day I flew on a plane from Manchester up to Scotland to play for England seaside, so didn't really get. Yeah, I would have liked to have a few beers with the lads after that, but I was a league footballer again, and it was. I think as a player going out to non-league and back into the Football League, I think that a lot of players that make that transition out and back in are determined never to fall back out again. And I think you realise what you've got as a professional footballer, so that you don't allow the same things to happen again. I'd gone from a career at Crewe at 8 years old to 21, to 13, 14 years of being at Crewe, just going up an age group playing, going up an age group playing, going up an age group. And I almost expected to just go and play in the first team, and probably didn't work hard enough to do that.
So it was then, obviously, you got back into the Football League, and Morecambe, you were a regular in the first team, the first season back in the Football League. How great did that feel for you?
I always believed I could get back in, and my family did, especially my dad. And I've got a very close family, very supportive family. But getting back there was, roll my sleeves up, let's get back going again. I'd had a bit of interest from other clubs to go higher, so I knew that I'd got a chance. And to be honest, those moves are, you go through periods in your career where you have good spells and bad spells, and if you get picked up during a good spell, you need a little bit of luck with the transfer, which I didn't get. But I realised that I was back in full-time football, and I was back as a league footballer, and I just wanted to get cracking.
You almost had to pinch yourself.
Well, it was at Morecambe, Jack. It wasn't.
Listen, it's a Football League team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had some fantastic times with that, and the lads up there were absolutely brilliant. I learned a lot at league, but I knew what football was back about when I was up there, because it was a really tough place to go and play. The old ground was. We had a really tough team, real winners in that team, and we went sort of 18, 19 games unbeaten. We weren't winning an awful lot, but we didn't lose any. So, we knew there was a lot of players in there. Jim Bentley, manager at Morecambe, Dave Artell, manager at Crewe. Gary Thompson had a good career. We had a lot of good players. Mark Duffy, who was at Stoke, he was in there. Carl Baker, who was another good player. We had a lot of good players in the team. And because it was such a difficult place to go and play, you knew those Tuesday night games against Wickham or Barnet, you were going to pick up points because they didn't fancy it.
So up next, I believe, was a loan move to Burton Albion. Yeah, a club that's actually risen through the ranks, and now they've become an established Championship team in recent years as well. So what was that kind of loan move like? How did it come about?
I'd had a knee injury. I'd been playing with sort of a little cartilage nick, so I'd been playing with it for probably a year or so. Got through to the summer and had the op. Came back and I needed a little bit more work, so I wasn't quite fit enough to start the season, so I went on loan to Burton for the month. Nigel Clough was manager. They were in the conference, decent side, and you know, he was different. Nigel was different. So, you know, team game days, you know, his assistant would come in and literally pin an A4 piece of paper at the top of the wall with the team on the sub, so they wouldn't tell anyone, and then he'd just go out. But he was a very good manager, knew how to get the best out of what he got, player-wise. Obviously learned a lot from his father. But yeah, played some games and then went back to Morecambe and carried on playing.
So that was part of the interview that we did with Adam Yates. The full interview will be up on That's Not News YouTube channel probably on Wednesday for a good watch, and we'll do the podcast version of it for an audio version for you to listen to in your cars or when you're walking about. Let's talk about the Championship.
Let's do it.
I would imagine you're not that familiar with it anymore. You've
No, completely forgotten it's in the past.
I'm very familiar with it, unfortunately. We'll talk about the top 6, which currently stands as Swansea, Leeds, West Brom, Nottingham Forest, Fulham and Preston.
Yep.
Out of those 6 teams, who's most likely to get promotion?
First and foremost, West Bromwich Albion. They're my favourites. I think they were unlucky not to get to the playoff final last season. It was only on penalties where they lost to Villa. I think over the 2 legs, I thought at Villa Park, they weren't particularly impressive, but at the Hawthorns, I think they were unlucky not to take a victory from that game and progress to the playoff final. And I think if you'd have put them up against Derby in that playoff final, I think could go either way. I think West Brom possibly could have won that. But they've gone away. They've done some good business over the summer. None better than appointing Slaven Bilic, who's a fantastic appointment and is, in my opinion, the best manager in the Championship. I said it. Yep. Sorry, Leeds fans. They've made some really good signings. I like Diangana Pereira coming in from Sporting Lisbon's been good. Romain Sawyers is a player who's been, for those who kind of support the Midlands clubs will know he's been impressive at Walsall for a number of seasons now. They've got good emerging players in the likes of Nathan Ferguson. I like the look of West Bromwich Albion right now.
Okay, and top of the tree, Swansea.
Yep.
Steve Cooper's come in there, first club managerial job. He's doing a fantastic job.
Unbelievable, brilliant. I think not a team that many would have had an eye on at the start of the season, looking at Swansea as someone that would have gone to win the Championship, but it's been brilliant. 1 defeat from their first 10 games. They've turned up, they're not scared. They play really nice football. When you watch them, they're very enjoyable to watch. And they lost a key player, let's not forget, in the summer, in Daniel James, who could have been a real asset to them this season. But, I mean, there's been no hangover of that whatsoever.
Is Steve Cooper just carrying on the job that Graham Potter started, or has Steve Cooper reset it and gone again?
I think there are elements of... Listen, I think if you're going to get promoted to the Premier League now, you need a vision, you need an identity to the club, you need a set way of playing, a set recruitment style. And I think Graham Potter put those foundations in. And I think there are elements of which Cooper has progressed with, and he has, there are definite similarities between the two sides, especially in the way that they play football. But he is definitely imposing his own brand on this season. It's a more successful brand, clearly, because although Graham Potter put the right foundations in, he wasn't particularly successful. It wasn't a fruitful tenure. I was, if anything, slightly surprised when he got the Brighton job. But no, I think Cooper's done very well. He's certainly... they look more solid defensively than I think Potter's side did, and I think there's a huge amount of positives. They're not one of my 3 sides to get promoted.
Okay.
If I had to predict now, but if they carry on the way that they're going, I think they could soon change that.
Second, last season's misery story, if you like, after what the start they made. Leeds United, Bielsa's Leeds. Good side, fantastic manager, meticulous in what he does. Are they one of the 3?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time for Leeds. They will get out the Championship eventually. I promise you, it will happen.
Are you promising that to Leeds fans?
Yes. Yeah, I think this season is the season. I think last season the squad was thin. I think that was one of their problems. The win against West Brom that they had at the weekend, Alioski's goal in that one was what proved to me that these guys are ready. That game was essentially, for me, a decider of who wins the Championship this season. It was going to be one of those 2 clubs. I think they've signed well. I like Helder Costa. I think he brings a new element to an already existing side. I think keeping hold of Calvin Phillips was key during the summer. There was so much links between him and moves, especially to Aston Villa. They've done very well to keep him, especially with the fees that were being discussed. And I like that they've taken a chance on the likes of Eddie Nketiah.
Eddie Nketiah is a very good Championship signing.
Brilliant. I think Bamford is going to be the primary number 9, but what a player to have coming off the bench Eddie Nketiah is. He's going to come up with bags of goals this season. He's going to learn so much from a manager like Bielsa. I think Leeds are going to be a side that get promoted this year. I think they were unlucky, to say the least. Last season it was crazy what unfolded at Ellen Road that night against Derby County. But no, I think they'll have learned from that. I haven't seen the documentary.
Have you not?
No, I haven't actually.
I've seen it. I only watched it to see us beat him twice. Once and when Nathan Jones came in.
Of course. But I think Leeds are a side who I have a lot of respect for. The incident at Ellen Road last season with Villa. Confirmed that, where they won the Fair Play Award. Yeah, and I think they've got a good manager. That kind of shows that the class that Bielsa has. I don't think many Championship managers would have allowed Villa to do that in that situation.
The controversial Fair Play Award.
Yeah.
Spygate was still a thing. I don't know if FIFA just kind of forgot about it. Spygate didn't exist.
But I think Bielsa is doing what it shows to win, and I like the look of them. I think they're one of my 3 teams to get promoted.
Okay, Nottingham Forest 4th.
Yep.
5 wins, 4 draws, 1 loss. They haven't lost in the last 5.
Yep.
Look a good side this season.
Absolutely. It started at Forest when Karanka kind of came in, and you had they went a bit Wolvesy with the recruitment.
Is that an adjective?
I think so. If it isn't, it is now.
It is now.
And the likes of João Carvalho came in from Benfica. Ribeiro as well. They have a squad where I think they've mixed the right kind of influx of players with players that have been there a while. They have, in my opinion, one of the most underrated players in the Championship in Joe Lolly.
Fantastic player.
Brilliant right winger. How he's still playing in that division is beyond me, really. I really like the look of Notts Forest this season. They're one of the clubs which I would keep an eye on as a potential side to go through the playoffs. They've got good resolve, and I think Lamucci as well as a manager. Not many people will have heard before he came in, but he's had a good start. He's kind of done what a lot of managers who have been at Forest in recent years, the likes of O'Neill, the likes of Karanka, haven't been able to develop that consistency, and I think they're starting to show signs of that now.
Fulham, relegated last season, obviously from the Premier League. Scott Parker's in charge there. They're a very good side. Mm-hmm. Who have maybe been a bit disappointing this season. They've lost 2 games, they've drawn 3, won 5, but from the money that they spent last summer, certainly, and they have kept a good strong core. They've got Alexander Mitrovic is probably the best striker in the league,
without a doubt.
On his day, they have kept a good strong core to that, which is key to trying to get back into the Premier League. They've got to be a contender for you now.
Yeah, they are. I would actually say it's between them and Forest in the early stages. Because they have, on paper, you could well consider to be the best side in the Championship. I think. Let me explain. Anthony Knockaert, what a signing. Bobby Reid, what a signing. Mitro, Tom Kearney, Harry Arter. That midfield and attack is unparalleled. I would actually argue, and I think we saw it was a great result of Reading the other night. 2 goals for Mitro. You'd like to see it. If they can get that attack firing on all cylinders, whether Scott Parker is going to do that is a different question, because as a young coach it's so hard to produce such an effective system. But if he can get that attack firing on all cylinders, boy, what a side that they have at Craven Cottage this year.
They definitely do. I'm a bit worried about playing them. We've got them in a couple of weeks. At Stoke, Preston are 6th. I am going to, whilst we're talking about the top 6, there's 2 more teams after Preston that I do just want to give a bit of a mention to. But we'll talk about Preston. Alex Neil's doing a fantastic job there.
Yep.
He really is. He's lifted them well up above where they probably expected to be last season. I watched them play us a few weeks ago. It was on Sky. They looked really good. Listen, we looked really bad. But no, Preston looked really good. Alex Neil, he's got a very particular way of playing football, which isn't maybe the best. But he gets results, and he's grinding out the results. Again, the same as Fulham, 5 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses. They could be a very surprise, maybe not a surprise package after last season, but certainly one to watch out for.
No, absolutely, and they've got real steel embodied by the likes of Ben Pearson. who in that holding midfield role I think is exceptional. Again, a very underrated player, and perhaps not underrated, but underappreciated, I think is the right word. Very not very spoken about, but I think he's a top talent. And again, Alex Neil is a manager. They're not going to play the most attractive football, but neither are Bristol City, who are behind them, and Charlton Athletic after them. But if you get promoted to the Premier League, who cares how you play football? If you're one of those clubs,
we showed that in 2007-8.
Exactly. Exactly. Cardiff came up. They gave it a real go, and so many unfortunate incidences, kind of evolve over that season whereby they didn't stay up, but they would have given teams promise that you don't have to go into the Premier League and play attractive football nowadays, that you can grind out results. I mean, Burnley are the side that do that game after game, and they prove season after season that you can stay and that you don't have to conform and you don't have to play at the back. And I think Alex Neil and those types of clubs will take real inspiration from that. I think they're set up well, they're going to be hard to beat, and I think if they maintain that, they can cause some real upsets this season.
And you mentioned Bristol City, who are 7th, 1 point off the playoff places. Lee Johnson as a manager is a really, really good manager. They came to Stoke. We were on the front foot for a lot of that game, and the steely determination of that team showed that got them the 3 points. Lee Johnson's again overachieving.
Yep.
Bristol City are dark horses, not the darkest horses, because the next team that we're talking about they are. But Bristol City have got a chance, I suppose, of getting in the playoffs.
Absolutely, of course. They've only lost once this season in their first 10 games, which tells you how difficult that they are to beat. They lost some real key players as well, let's not forget, over the summer, especially defensively. They lost, I think it was in January, they lost Lloyd Kelly to Bournemouth. And so, the lights, there've been players dropping out of that defence which have been really key for those. And they've maintained that steely defensiveness that you talk about. I think they've conceded 4 goals so far this season in their first 10 games. 1 loss, and again, not the most attractive side to watch play football, but they're very hard to beat. They're very organised. They'll go to teams, they'll grind out results, they'll pick up points, and you have to watch them in that race for the playoffs. The
race for the playoffs that also involves Charlton, who obviously got promoted last season. Lee Bowyer.
Very happy to say.
Yeah. Basically, every team we talk about, you just basically support.
I got a massive soft spot for Charlton.
You do.
What a club.
And Lee Bowyer is doing a fantastic job there.
Yeah, but he is. Again, key players left. Joe Aribo was so essential to them getting promoted from League One. In the summer, he was attracted for a move to Rangers, and they've kept that creativity. They're really good to watch. I really like watching Charlton Athletic. They've got a real underdog spirit about them, whereby they go into every game like it's a cup final. And Lee Bowyer, as you would imagine, has installed
a grit,
tenacity,
fantastic word.
It is the word, whereby they just go gung ho at teams. They beat, my knowledge of the Championship fails me at times. Beat Leeds, right? So? A few weeks ago. Am I right in saying? I'll check the recent results now.
Definitely beat Stoke.
Beat Leeds 1-0, and so that's all you need to know. They're going to be sides where they won't fear anybody. They'll go to sides and they'll play without fear, and I don't think they will get promoted. Fortunately for Charlton and to the other members of my family, if you're watching. I think it will peter out, but they're a side to watch for seasons to come, because they have Premier League history, they have Premier League pedigree. They know that they've done it before. They've got a decent ground in the Den. It's aging slightly, but it's just one where they could really kind of evolve as a club and put themselves back in that Premier League status. This season isn't the year. Sorry, Charlton fans, but
you just don't want anyone to like us, do you? You just keep insulting people.
I'm so sorry, everyone, but no. Unless you're a fan of Leeds United, West Brom, or Nottingham Forest / Fulham. Those are my sides that are going to get promoted.
Definitely not if you're a Tottenham fan, and definitely not if you're called Sergio Aurier.
No.
Okay, we've got to do it again. I don't really want to do it because I lost last time, and it was embarrassing last time anyway because we got 1 out of 6.
Here we go.
But we're going to play Quiz Ball.
Yep,
so
we
go.
certainly are. Don't look at the answers.
Sorry. Are you ready?
Let's get into it.
Right, we're going to go. You can go first again because you did win the last one. So,
of course.
Be my guest. Kick me off.
Thank you very much. Well, Jack, the first question that I open with is, what was significant? It's a Man City themed question, obviously, here at the Etihad Stadium. What was significant about Mario Balotelli's only assist for Manchester City in the Premier League?
It won the Premier League title.
It did. Sergio Aguero's goal. Who could forget?
Yeah, I remember.
Well, that's one. That's your first one this season.
Yours are going to be a lot older because you won last week.
Well, I feel like after your poor performance last week, I had to make them a bit easier.
That's just nasty. Go on.
Kevin Phillips won the Premier League Golden Boot in 1999-2000, very famously. Who was the next English player to do so?
What year?
Didn't say, but I'm going to go. I'll give that away. I'm not going to tell you that actually.
Michael Owen?
Harry Kane.
No way.
There you go. Right, to redeem yourself.
Okay.
Because 2 out of 3 is respectable. 1 out of 3 is.
2 out of 3 ain't bad to
poor.
say.
In what season did Roman Abramovich take hold of Chelsea Football Club?
2003-2004.
On the money. There it is. He's turned it around.
2 out of 3
Not
ain't
bad at all.
Okay. Which 3 Which 3 countries have won the FIFA Under-20 World Cup more than once?
Okay. Argentina.
Yeah.
Brazil, I'm going to say. And the last one, if I complete this, you're in trouble. Spain.
Portugal, mate. Unlucky. Which... No, I'm not going to ask you.
That's got to be a half. 2 out of 3.
No.
It's got to be a half.
We don't do halves.
That's harsh.
No.
It's almost 3 questions in one, though.
No. How many UEFA European Cup and Champions League... Don't shake your head at me. And Champions League finals has Madrid hosted?
4.
Oh, it's 5.
Oh.
You've not even got one yet.
Oh. Right.
Which 3 Gabonese players played in the Premier League and scored or assisted last season?
Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Meunier?
Listen, I'm going to let you give all 3 and then I'll give you a definite.
Steve Meunier, I think he's from Gabon.
Can you hurry up? There's a lot of editing.
Kachunga.
You are so wrong. So it was Aubameyang, it was Bruno Ekole at Cardiff, and Mario Lemina.
Oh, I mean, household names, really.
So you got a massive 0 out of 3, I got 2 out of 3. I'm basically the best at this game.
0.5 out of 3.
You got 0 out of 3.
0.5 out of 3.
It will say 0 on the screen.
Right, you're... No? Well done, Jack. Well
Thanks,
done.
mate.
I'm not a sore loser.
Yes, you are. So that was episode 2 of That's Not News. If you want to watch the Adam Yates interview in full, it will be on the YouTube channel later this week. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the video where you can, and visit us at DawsonFootball.com. Dan, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me again.